Welcome, listeners, to CyberGPT Pulse podcast. After much needed break after the RSA hustle, I think I bet a lot of you might be experiencing the same who have visited RSA or any other conference, kind of a lot of tiredness post that. So, yeah, today we are finally back and I have a very special guest, Niraj Tiffany. He's the CEO of Netwoven. Netwoven is kind of we met in RSA running around. I was running around on expos and other stuff and kind of started talking. And he graciously agreed to come on board and share what exactly he has been doing from past 30 years now. So has a good experience with Microsoft as well. So yeah, I would just call you on board and share your experience to uh, what and how you have moved in your journey from past 30 years, and specifically for the audience who have not heard about you or don't know about your company.
Yeah, no, thanks, Sayed. Thanks for actually meeting at the conference and then following up for the post podcast. As Sayed mentioned, I am Niraj Tenany. I am based here in the Bay Area and I am co-founder CEO of Netwoven. And I also happen to run the cloud infrastructure and security practice at Netwoven. So we've been in business for about 24 years, believe it or not, and it's been a fun ride. So thank you, Sayed.
Of course, that seems like a long journey, and I'm pretty much sure we have seen a lot of changes. Past few years, I've just seen in my 10 years two major changes, specifically from cloud native security and now AI security is coming around. So, what's your experience around that? How you migrated from your on-prem infrastructure handling to cloud infrastructure, and how that uh, bring around more business and more technical challenges to you.
Yeah, the interesting part was that, in 2020, when COVID hit on March 17th, and everybody started to work from home on March 18th, we were 100% ready. We had no business disruption. Everything was cloud ready. And we were very busy in 2020 to move people to the cloud. So COVID actually accelerated, the movement to the cloud. And of course, security played a big role because now people were working remotely. So how do you know deal with remote employees? So I mean, we just saw a big increase in just the use of security and remote work. And then in addition, after that, people wanted to actually focus on data security, because now everybody's remote. You don't know what they're accessing, what they're downloading, I mean, and who they are sharing with. So we saw a big acceleration in data security as well. So it's been a fun ride. And still, a lot of companies, we are helping companies migrate, their software, their system, their data to the cloud.
Of course, I think you have hit the target bang on. Data security is something was always there, but specifically for due to the cloud migration, now organizations are getting it much harder to keep the track. So, so why exactly you think organization are where exactly they are seeing the challenges to keep the data secure while allowing other people to work on the work seamlessly in remote or hybrid environment and keeping the right balance there.
Yeah, yeah. So I think companies are definitely, are seeking the challenges of data security. I mean, there were a couple of problems with, data security. One, the original security model was perimeter security, right? So people were like comfortable, okay, my data is my perimeter, I'm good with that. That perimeter security now has changed because now with the cloud, there's no longer perimeter security. So now there is more push towards creating the zero trust model, right? And then, so that's one change. The second change that we are seeing is where, there were high barrier in doing data security, right? Because you needed to know encryption, you needed encryption software. Once you encrypt something, collaboration it decreases because you cannot collaborate. Every time you need to open a file, you need a key. So all of this was sort of, where it was a problem. So now, because the bar has kind of gone down in terms of collaboration, in terms of one trust, zero trust security, in terms of increased collaboration, now we're seeing more and more enthusiasm in how to do data security, and people wanting to do it. And of course, the hackers are keeping us on our toes, in terms of what they're doing. So if you combine all of this, data security is very hot.
Yeah, of course. And again, we have put at the main point there specifically the security boundaries on which we have been relying from longest period of time, specifically for parameter security, they have been dissolved because of the traditional network security doesn't is been disappearing as data is now residing in multi-cloud, multi-tenant. So the clear security boundary is very difficult to establish, and there is another confusion of shared responsibility like with cloud. So um, for the longer period of time organization we are not even understanding that. So that's bring us to different mistakes which companies are doing while protecting those their data when in multi-tenant account. Do you have experience of the major on the common mistake the organization usually does?
Sorry, can you come back again?
Yeah. So, what are the common mistakes which company does while trying to protect their data on multi-tenant
Yeah. Yeah.
cloud infrastructure?
So data security kind of like is a multi-layered strategy, right? So I'm actually amazed at how many companies don't even have the basic DLP in place, right? So DLP is a very simple
Or
thing,
DSPM or
yeah.
DSPM, which
Yeah,
we use.
TSPM is more complicated, but DLP is the starting point, right? That you can at least have a basic DLP layer in place, right? For people. So that's something that we work with customers to define their DLP strategy and execution. Then obviously the DSPM, which is a new term, but basically we help customers do data classification, or we advise them to do data classification, because once you classify your data, then you can begin to figure out what you want to protect, right? It's like, if you try to protect all your data, it's going to be a huge problem for the company, because then the collaboration will come to a standstill. So what you want to do is, you want to categorize your data, that what I call the crown jewels of the company versus what is general content in the company, and you want to have a different data protection strategy for that. We see, when we work with customers, we see a lot of companies applying the same strategy to the entire data corpus, and that is a problem. Yeah, I don't think you want to take and apply protection to every piece of content.
Yep. Yep. So specifically for data classification, yeah, organization should start from there, for before even looking for DLP or DSPM, which kind
Yes.
of right now is a very new vendor term, but naively call it DLP in new wrapper. So it's kind of growing in the right direction, but still DLP is something which organization should start with, and then of course data classification based on the current standards, identifying what their critical application with their own data sensitivity is something which organization sometimes make mistakes because we are as security trying to write the policy in GRC and can be
Yeah.
misinterpreted when
Yep.
our developers are doing the same thing from their side. So yeah,
Right. The
that's
first step
that's
I've seen is, really do discovery.
yeah.
You have to discover what content you have, then you have to define how you want to classify your content, right? And then, with every project, we typically do what we call a crawl, walk, run, fly methodology. Do small things in the crawl phase, do more in the walk phase, do a bit more in the run phase, and we're ready to fly, have everything in place.
Yeah, that's a good approach. The incremental approach is always really, really helpful. But yeah, sometimes organizations are just in a hurry to get the right regulation in place and to launch a new equipment, so they just skip but that's when you see the fall of the infrastructure, and you cannot fall back and get back to the same level. Once you have done some mistakes, it's really difficult to handle it in the later stage. So that's why I think the main importance for the business to think about data security is at every stage of the data life. So do you want to describe the stage like discovery, which you have covered, at which are there a certain stage of data life cycle where process can be defined for data security?
So, data is getting created everywhere, right? And to try to define a data life cycle, and I've been in this business for 24 years now, it is hard. Okay, so I think what you want to do, is you want to have systems and things working in the background. So as data gets created based on certain keywords, certain phrases, and certain things, that systems automatically determine whether something is something is secure, requires more security or less security, or how it needs to be classified. If we leave it to the users and if we leave it to the systems and processes, it's not going to get done. So I like this approach of the new, DSPM tools, that are there, where there is engines running in the background that, that are determining what really, how the data should be classified to be able to be protected. So I like that approach. I don't like the approach of thinking about the full data life cycle and, and trying to protect it. You see all my gray hair here. I've been trying to do it for the longest time, and it's just not working.
Yeah. So I asked that question because I have heard this question from product owner, and they like to have the discrete life cycle and try to discretely define data security in the stage. But yeah, it's not exactly something which we can do. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's the right
So,
advice.
so the data takes is in two buckets. One is called work in process, another is called final. Right. So for example, you and I are having this podcast. This is a work in process podcast. You are going to take this and you're going to edit it, you're going to refine it, and then you're going to publish the final one. Right. It's very hard to apply data life cycle, data protection to a work in process content. A life cycle. Not data protection, but life cycle. But it's very easy to apply to the final one, because once you are done, it can go through an approval process to say, yep, it's done, it's approved, I can classify it, I can post it, I can apply the security, and you can post it. So what we see is life cycles being applied to final content, but applying life cycle to work in process is often very hard.
Of course, that's a good advice. So from the team working with various inside and outside partners and client, they have to have the understanding that which classification of data need to be put up for setting the partnership. So how can these the teams can work with the outside partner or client without putting sensitive data and address? Is this just based on data classification? They should be happy that okay, we have classified something as sensitive, so now we can just move on to put
Yeah.
up all the data with
Yeah.
the outside partner.
Yeah. So there are two or three ways. Number one is leave it to the user to do manually classify. That's on one side of the spectrum. Number two is leave it to the system to automatically classify. That's on the other side. There's something in the middle that needs to be applied. Okay, and that middle is where you use technologies to protect content based on certain users groups and how you want to manage, right? So there is a concept what's called a virtual data room. Okay, virtual data rooms have been in existence for a long time. Okay, however, virtual data rooms are being utilized now more and more to protect content. So that way, you put the content in a data room, you classify it, right, and the users and groups are managed properly, and those data remains secure.
Okay.
Okay,
So
so
this
yeah.
virtual data room is this hybrid hybrid of user annotation plus predictive analytics.
Yeah, it's a hybrid of what we call location based protection rather than user based protection or automatic protection. It's sort of in the middle.
Okay.
Right. So a good example, right? Since you work in supply chain security, right? So, or I would take it to the supplier side. Let's say that I'm a manufacturing company and I work with 2,000 suppliers. I have a confidential design document. I have to give it to my supplier to protect, for manufacturing of some component, right? How do I make sure that that design document is not shared with others and not does not is not leaked? Right. So if I take the manual approach, I as a person will protect it manually and say only, only ABC person from this company can open it. Right. Now that ABC person opens it, now he needs to talk to five other people in the company to create the product. Now that person has to now come back to me and say, hey, can you assign these five people and send me the document again? Right. Imagine how cumbersome this has become, right? So by using location-based storage, you can put the document in a repository, which is the data room, right? And you can add users to it, and the documents keep getting the user access keeps getting changes without us needing to do that, right?
Okay.
So that is how location-based storage, security storage through virtual data rooms is becoming more and more popular.
Okay. So essentially, virtual data room with RBAC, role-based access control, specified for group and individual, can be we can just put our data inside and can be shared uh, online with the required rolled individual and team partners.
That's correct.
Is that
Yep.
correct? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good approach, and I think most of the time the only thing which I've seen is how to define that role and what kind of data need to be switch off. Like sometimes I can, if there is not much of um, classification of the data, even if there is, so a user can go ahead and copy something from the
Yeah.
existing virtual room and keep it in the local G drive or something. How to stop that? That's also something which need to be looked
Yeah.
at. So do you have a solution on that?
So data exfiltration is, I think, what you're referring to, right? So, there are CASP solutions, out there right now that allow you that, if you're working in a company, you could have restrictions that, don't, if nobody should be able to put things in Google Drive or Dropbox and being able to protect that. So, that problem is largely solved, but, the issue still remains. How do you classify content properly, and how do you enable external collaboration sharing with users in a collaborative manner?
Yeah. Because the problem which I faced is using that vendor based filtration. If we block data classified copy paste or transfer, even then there are a lot of false positive where
Yes.
something is being classified as sensitive or as blocked, but it's just in
Yeah.
general data. And sometimes these teams are also requesting for those requests because they are just trying to share keys over um, Google Drive, because there is no other better solution for the local sharing. For I think for a day or so, they want to share the keys and run over their IoT system, IoT device on the field for testing. So these for these use cases, you have to allow them, and then the allow list does get very long after some time. You it's very hard to keep the track there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think, the best example I give is Project Kangaroo, right? So let's say that if you have a document, it says Project Kangaroo, and you said it, and kangaroo is a keyword. Your DLP may block it because it's a keyword, right? That, confidential. But I may be actually wanting to go to Australia for a vacation and I want to look at kangaroos, right? So we have to kind of refine the rules, like, for example, in this particular case, you could say, hey, if you see kangaroo 5 times in the document, okay, maybe it's talking about our internal project rather than the vacation that the person is. So you have to make the rules creative to be able to block and reduce the false positives, right? That's one part. Second part is people do have to standardize a bit on what repositories, external repositories to use for managing data, because you can't, it's hard to have a strategy where you say my data can be everywhere but it should be protected. That's a very hard problem to solve, right? So one of the things that we do with our customers is consolidate repositories, right? I mean, like we have customers where they have Dropbox, they have Google Drive, they have Box, they have SharePoint OneDrive, they have OneDrive, and we kind of rationalize to say, why do you really need all these things, right? So let's try to consolidate so that your number of repositories are limited, and your cost will also be less, right? And we are seeing more and more companies do that, and so that problem can be solved in repositories, that problem can be solved in applications, number of these areas.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good and simple solution for improving data security without slowing people down. Basically, reduce the number of third-party dependence where data can be shared.
Yeah.
So first vet which of these data application are really necessary. You are maybe using five similar application when you only need one. So yeah, that's a good approach. So is there any other similar example or similar ways which can be applied by organization to have
So
cost as well as data security in place?
identifying classification rules as hard. It's not an easy problem. Because I gave the example of Project Kangaroo, right? Today it is a classified project. Tomorrow it may not be a classified project. So then you have to go back and update the rules, to make sure that no data gets protected there. So there's a lot of changes and rule changes that occurs, and one has to make sure these are all managed properly.
uh, I do have been seeing a solution for that from longest period of time, although it's kind of will go around for long period. But initially what I see is to use any of these vendor solution for using their own training set and applying the baseline rule, and then that baseline rule should be updated. Right now we are updating the rule set, which is being updated manually as we see what are the false positive, what are the confused there. But what I'm expecting is, can vendor get the model on the real time in the infrastructure of the organization, learn on the organizational data, and try to fine tune their own baseline rule where the user or the enterprise input can be there, but they should be able to learn on the runtime or real time data, and then fine tune the data security policy on their own. So if that can be happening specifically for every enterprise, that should be the goal, and that will be actually very useful
Oh
for
yeah,
getting
that
this.
would be ideal if that can happen. I think it takes a bit of time, and
Yeah.
maybe with AI, there is probably more chances of something like that happening.
The only uh, blockage right now I'm seeing is that from okay, we can deploy the data DLP or DSPM in the organization and it is running for 6 months, but unless we have the model have enough data there, its accuracy of fine tuning the existing rule
Yeah.
set will
Yep.
not be that great. So
And by
I,
enough you mean volume as well as use
yeah,
cases. Yeah.
yes, both.
Yeah.
So that's what we have, or we are already experiencing it in our sim and our existing and EDR. So, but as we have improved our EDR, maybe in future these real time DLPs can be also improved. So that's what I'm looking forward in future.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. So um, from others perspective, what are the existing solution partners from Microsoft 365 which actually helps organization to provide data security support. Can you name someone and some and give their pros and cons?
Yeah. So there are actually, this industry has grown significantly in the last few years, right? 2 years. There are third-party companies, there are Microsoft providers, and we also have a product in that area, in that category as well. So the one that interests me the most is right now is Microsoft Purview, because it seems to tackle a lot of problems, DLP, information protection, insider risk management, e-discovery, data governance, all of this together in a single product. And I'm not aware of any product that tackles all of those four or five in a single product. So that's it. It kind of reminds me of SharePoint in 2003. SharePoint came out, where it was doing document management, collaboration, e-discovery, content management, and all of these together. And before 2003, everything was separate category. And so now you don't find any of those companies. They're all gone. So I'm sensing that maybe there is a second act here, with this product. So that's one that I like. There's other products like Big ID. There is another product called Sierra, that is there. And there's a whole bunch of products out there. The ones that I'm most familiar with are these two. And then, Netwoven has a product called Govern 365, which is because we work a lot with semiconductor industry for data protection. And as you know, semiconductor industry is paranoid about security, right? I mean, they're so paranoid about data protection. So, and in that process, we learned a lot, and we realized that manual classification is not going to work. Auto classification has too many problems. So we created this product for location based classification. Okay. By location, you mean you define a repository, you create a repository, you put your content in, and by virtue of the location, permissions will get added to that repository. Okay. We're pretty excited about the product. A lot of companies, use it for mergers and acquisitions, collaboration, IP protection, board meetings, buy side, sell side. There's a number of use cases that, the Govern 365 now is addressing.
Okay. So specifically, when you talk about the location-based virtual data storage, uh, how the role is been associated with the location is that if the location is suppose US East, like we see in AWS, if there is some IAM policy then determined for US East, and that's already there. If the virtual data is being created in that location, automatically that rule set will
So,
be applied, or is there something need to be customized for the when we are creating the virtual
yeah.
database?
So when you, through a simple guided interface, you create a repository. It could be, and in our case, we created it in Microsoft SharePoint, but it could be in Google Drive, it could be in Dropbox, it could be in AWS S3, wherever it could be, right? And then you create a repository, you assign protection to that repository. What that means is that any content that gets added to that repository, a protection will be applied to it. Okay? And then you can remove users to that repository, you can remove users from the repository, but that content will always be protected for the people who are part of that repository, right? Then if somebody takes that document out from that repository and sends it to somebody who's not part of that repository, right, that other person will not be able to open it, right? And now the protection capability is such that you cannot print it, you cannot cut and paste it, right? So there's a lot of the only, you can put a watermark on it, a dynamic watermark, to say that, okay, Syed is the one who opened it. So if I take a screen picture of it, that watermark is there, right? And there's more technologies that are coming where even taking a picture of some documents would not be possible.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
It's already masking the data when we are trying to take a picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Okay, so basically, location is a data platform on which the data has been
Yeah, so
shared.
the
Is that what you
location
mean to
is
say?
a storage platform more so than country or geography or something. Location is more of a storage location.
Okay, yeah. So I think that's a much more discrete definition. Um, So basically, the data privilege and data access of the existing platform will be automatically assigned. You don't have to
Yes.
customize it further, and that should be the way to go, because at the time when your organization has created, they have at least defined the data classification rightly, and based on that, it will be automatically applied when data has been shared.
Yeah.
So regarding the data masking, so the govern tool or other tools are already having the data masking with camera, and as
No,
well
no,
as
none. Products don't have. Things are still in early
okay,
stages. I think some. I've seen like some patents being filed. In that area, it's coming up, but I think it'll be a few years. Where it happened. I think the bigger problem right now is quantum computing, right? Like because even when you apply protection, right, with these quantum computers, the protection will be unlocked, very easily. So now we have to look at different next generation of protection to content so that we can prevent from quantum unlocks basically.
yeah, quantum wave is the next tsunami. I think it will be bigger than, specifically for security, it will be bigger than internet. So for that, we have to be prepared. The PQCs need to be ready before quantum computing get matured enough for impacting it in the real sense. Yeah, that's a good advice. So uh, apart from that, do you have any other advice which you want to give to the company, which is
Yeah.
starting to build any data governance plan? Yes.
Yeah, no, I know. I think my most successful projects have been where there's a bit of discovery that is done, and do it iteratively. Don't try to boil the ocean, because there are many vectors. You have many applications. You have many repositories. You have many file types. You have many types of users, right? You kind of have to bring all of these things together to solve your problem. So the idea is to take a small piece, get some initial value from that small piece faster, so you can demonstrate value, you can really get some more funding for your project, and then you can kind of go take on a path. So that would be my suggestion. And sometimes in IT we make people, projects very tool centric. This is not a tool problem. There are tools out there, but don't try to make it like a tool that if you buy a certain tool it's going to solve your problem. You're going to have to go through that process to solve the problem.
And buying new tool will increase your overhead, and tool fatigue is already there. So you have to manage, and as well as even spending to procure the product, and then managing and maintaining that one is itself is a huge overhead. So you have to at least really decide whether you want to buy a new tool, or it's just a solver problem which can be customized in the existing tool chain.
Right, right. Yep, exactly.
So I think that's pretty much from the technical discussion. I will just switch the table and bring out some non-technical, your personality kind of questions, just to
Sure.
get a feel from audience that who Neeraj is. So, uh, apart from your technical endeavors, what are the other hobbies and other side projects which you are dealing with right now?
Yeah, I mean, I have two older kids. I spend a lot of time with them, and I think there's a good. I do a lot of socialization with my friends and extended family. I travel quite a bit, and I do a lot of reading, and and then some exercise also. As we all get older, we have to do more of that. So it's been fun. It's been good. I love the Bay Area. The weather here is excellent. I've been living here for almost 27 years.
Yeah, audience is not able to see your bookshelf, but it's a full-fledged library available in your office now.
Yeah, yeah, I love reading. So, I think You haven't seen, I have some books underneath my monitor also, so to help raise my monitor. So I use books for in two different forms.
Yeah, that's great. Reading books, it's itself experience, and you're talking to in your own capacity to the author and getting the feel of it. It's
Yeah, I mean,
a good
you've
thing.
written books, so kudos to you. I have taken that project many times, but only I get tired. So hats off to you for actually writing, being an author and writing books. I mean, it's not an easy task.
I'm already in the task of the next book, although it will take time. But yeah, I'm looking for writing the next one. It's
Yeah,
kind of something which I want to. It's kind of when you're writing a book, it's not about your sharing knowledge, because you learn a lot of things
yeah,
while
yeah.
in the process itself. So
Yep.
it's a good
And
way to
my,
learn
my
as well.
my biggest project right now is AI and security. That's what I'm solely focused on. And not not how AI can help security, but I am more focused on how AI can hurt, organization and how to secure.
Specifically with agentic AI and MCP,
Yep.
the thing which I'm seeing the security risk I'm seeing with the MCP client and server connections, which can be easily done with various existing, like you were talking about data security, even after having data classification in each of these server, when you are having a unsecure protocol running it, it's a real issue. Although this is a native MCP, we cannot complain with Anthropic, and even for Google A2A, they will improve. But right now, whoever is using an organization are adopting it very fast. So AI security researcher and AI security practitioner has a lot of
Yeah, yeah. So
tasks.
that's
So
something,
it's kind of
I gave a webinar on AI and security last November. You can go to www.netwoven.com to actually find that. It's very comprehensive to talk about the entire AI and security landscape and what companies can do.
yeah, I will put that in the show notes, and audience interested can look into your lecture there. So I think yeah, that's pretty much it. We will
Great.
wrap it up here, and so yeah, audience, thanks for connecting to CyberGPT Pulse. Again, we talked about data security with Neeraj, and until next time, do subscribe and like the video and the channel, and follow it in all the platforms. Specifically, we are on Spotify as well. So yeah, till next time, be safe, be vigilant, and do check out your data security in the organization or in your personal life. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Bye bye.